Natural talent will get you only so far as a writer. At some point, every aspiring author must put their ego aside if they want to understand why they aren't publishing. Most new writers don't realize there are certain mistakes an editor won't read past, mistakes that mark them, however talented, as newbies. Most writers have struggled to correct at least one or two of these mistakes in their writing. Some, like me, have had to correct quite a few more. In this video, we'll look at 5 of the most common new writer mistakes and how to avoid making them. Head hopping is a common new writer mistake and one sure to sink your manuscript. Head hopping is when the reader is granted access to the inner thoughts and feelings of more than one character in the same scene. The reader should only ever know the inner dialogue of one character per scene. Head hopping is jarring for a reader and a non-starter for publishers. Here's an example of head hopping. Sue thought, "He looks so serious." She stood, a cold weight settling in her stomach. "Doctor?" Dr. Brennan hesitated. "Why did this never get any easier?" "I'm afraid it isn't good news." Head hopping isn't the only issue with this exchange, but it's by far the worst. The reader should only ever know what Sue or Dr. Brennan is thinking in a single scene, not both. It's easy enough to fix the above example of head hopping, though. We'll just eliminate the inner narrative of one of the two characters. For example, Sue thought, "He looks so serious." She stood, a cold weight settling in her stomach. "Doctor?" Dr. Brennan hesitated. "I'm afraid it isn't good news." By eliminating the one sentence betraying Dr. Brennan's feelings, we correct the head hopping in the exchange. Another common new writer mistake is the dreaded information dump. Usually this takes the form of too much backstory delivered all at once or too early in the story, and it's another newbie mistake bound to sink your manuscript. Too much information delivered at once slows the pace of your narrative and bores readers. Remember, people read stories to experience what the protagonist is experiencing, not to hear a list of facts about what happened to them in the past. Information dumping also breaks a cardinal rule of writing fiction. Show, don't tell. Backstory is important, but it's always best in small doses. Rather than bludgeon your reader with a face full of backstory in Chapter 1, reveal a little here and there over the course of the story. This way, you'll not only avoid the dreaded information dump, but keep your readers guessing too. Another newbie mistake guaranteed to land your manuscript in the circular file is tense shifting. It's a fundamental mistake, but it happens often enough to warrant mentioning. Switching between tenses is bad form, and it leaves the reader confused, if not insulted. Here's an example of a sentence shifting from present to past tense. I walked to the bus stop and waited 20 minutes before it arrived. There are many instances of tense shifts in popular fiction, but they're always done with good reason and never, to my knowledge, in the same sentence. Shifting tenses randomly or without purpose alienates the reader. In my second published short story, God is a Rabbit, the narrative switches from past to present tense to indicate my protagonist is dreaming. As a rule, though, we're best off avoiding tense shifts unless we have good reason. Neglecting to vary sentence structure and length is another common new writer mistake. Using the same sentence structure more than twice consecutively is a recipe for bland, stale prose. Consider the following. Nate walked to the corner. He looked at his watch. It was getting late. He peered down the street. A few more sentences like this will bore your reader to sleep. Varied sentence structure is one of the things that makes written language ebb and flow. Repetitive sentences, on the other hand, lay lifeless on the page. Walking to the corner, Nate checked his watch and saw it was getting late. He peered down the street. These two sentences may not be anything special, but they flow much better than the earlier 4-sentence version. Remember to mix up your sentences when you write. If you've just written 2 long sentences, consider a short one. If too short, maybe the next should be longer. There's no formula. Writing is an art, not a science. But varying your sentence structure can go a long way toward improving your writing. "Leave me alone," Jack hissed. "We did it," she cried triumphantly. Mary implored, "You can't." These are examples of what could be called loaded dialogue attribution, and such gems are a common new writer mistake. When tagging dialogue, the best option is almost always he said, she said, or they said. Colourful attribution and attribution loaded with adverbs come off as lazy attempts to clarify what should already have been made evident to the reader. Heavy-handed attribution breaks the show, don't tell rule, and robs the reader of participation in the story. "Leave me alone," Jack said, leaves room for a wide range of interpretation based on context. "Leave me alone," Jack hissed, pigeonholes the reader into one narrow descriptive interpretation. If you're guilty of this literary transgression, don't feel bad and don't panic. It's a mistake most of us make until we learn better. But limit yourself to he said, she said, or they said as often as possible. You'll be amazed at how it transforms your writing. So, there they are, 5 of the most common new writer mistakes. Avoid these and you'll be amazed at the difference it makes in your writing. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.